I remember that every year, it's like, I think it's in the summertime. Yes, in the summertime, what would happen is that the West End House Boys Club, because that's where we practice. We practice at the West End House Boys Club because there was a room there that we could all practice in. They had all these mats, like gymnastics mat, which you would need to practice because when you're doing a flip, if you did it wrong and you land on the floor, it would really bloody hurt. So I did a lot of my practice in 5 hours a day in there on these mats, learning the different moves and in order to get good at it. And then I remember in the summertime, the West End House Boys Club would close. It closed for the summertime for I think for half the summer or most of the summer. I think it was like half the summer for several weeks and maybe about 6 weeks. And so during that time, we all still needed to practice, but we didn't have any place to practice. And so we decided Boston University had this football field out there for, I guess, for the semi-pros or whatever it is. It's a college football. They had lots of football fields, but this particular one was close to our house. And so we all went down there. And at the time, you'd bring a piece of linoleum with you. Linoleum is like the floor and cover that you'd put on your floor back in the day. You just roll it out on your floor. It was cheap, but it was slippery. And what was good about it is that, you know, if you had on a breakdancing kind of jacket that was kind of out of a certain fabric, sort of like a nylonish fabric, when you would do like backspins on it, the smooth surface from the linoleum would make you spin really fast. If you're doing a windmill, it'd make you spin a lot faster. So because of that, you would see a lot of these kids who are competing in breakdancing, they'd come with their linoleum and their boom box and they'd just throw it down on the floor. And all of a sudden there's a competition anywhere, on any street. As long as you roll out the linoleum, there is a battle on and people are ready to compete with each other. You know, they have the radio, you got your linoleum, boom, competition is on to see who's better at a certain move. And I guess at the time, you know, breakdancing for more of the adults' point of view was better for the kids because at least the kids weren't getting into gangs, they weren't getting into drugs. Look, if all we were doing were harmless, we're dancing, we're competing, we're dancing. Dancing is actually, honestly, very physical. So technically, your kids are being physically fit. They're exercising. They're traveling all over the place and competing with other people to say, hey, I'm better at my physical activity than you are. So in that sense, you're keeping out of trouble for the most part. And at the time, graffiti was a thing too, and some people were spraying graffiti, but my group was not really into the graffiti that much. There was a kid by the name of Will that came from New York that started doing some graffiti stuff, but we were more into the breakdance stuff. And so we were at the Boston University Park, all of us there practicing week after week, day after day. And then there was a dance studio that the Boston University football field was sort of adjacent to. And so apparently this guy was looking out the window from the dance studio and he was looking at these kids out there, breakdancing out there. And he was so impressed by us. His name was Murph. And Murph came out and introduced himself to us. And he's like, you guys are pretty good. And so he actually, he invited us into the dance studio to just show us around. And of course, you know, it was weird to us, like, what's with this older white guy, you know, inviting us into this strange place. I'm like, what is he going to do to us? But there was a whole bunch of us, so we weren't really threatened by it. So we got in there and, you know, there's this cool dance studio with lots of mirrors around and your typical 1980s dance studio with the bar or, you know, circling around and the mirrors there and the nice mat and everything. And people spend tons of money to come to this wonderful dance studio. And Murph, he was like, hey, you guys can actually practice here. And we're like, really? He's like, yeah, you don't have to practice in the park anymore. So all of a sudden, we were practicing in the studio for free.